Thank you, councillors. We're now going to reconvene the Works and Infrastructure Committee meeting. And we got as far as confirmation of minutes, item number 5 on page 7 to 12. Would someone like to so move, please? Thank you, Councillor Walker. We have a seconder for the minutes. Thank you, Councillor Laurie. Any matters that jump out at you? If not, we'll move them. All those in favour, please say aye. And those against, the ayes have it. Status report on page 13. I'll just go through page by page. Page 14, let me know if you've got any subjects. Page 15, 16, 17, Church Street's attached, so we'll get to that. Councillor Delbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the explanation for me really is that opportunity for pedestrian severance across Waimea Road.
Mr. Levitas.
Not too sure what it means.
Yes, so through the chair, it's the opportunity for getting pedestrians across Waimea Road. So to make sure that they can actually get from one side to the other, to make sure it's continuous.
So we call that severance.
It's a roading term, yes.
No other questions? That's great. Need it moved?
Yes.
I'll move. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Walker, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. The ayes have it. Yeah?
It might help for the new councillors to actually have that report from the 31st of March, because I was here and I knew about it, but even I was confused, but that seems to be a common thing for me lately. I just think that if they got the report that from the 31st of March, they can see that work program and make a little more sense.
Okay, we'll do that. Right, item number 7, Church Street Improvement Concept Design Approval. Mr. Davies is coming down to talk to us about that. It's attached. Can I please just now make a plea? Try not to redesign the design. Please don't do that today. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are a few items I'd like to draw councillors' attention to. The first is in the schematic drawings as part of the attachment. I think it's attachment 2. There's an obvious error in the drawings. It shows a car travelling in the wrong direction. So those drawings were compiled as part of the process that we went through working with the stakeholders in Church Street, and that part of the drawing wasn't updated. So just to explain why that might look odd.
Thank Councillor Walker for that. Very observant.
Secondly is the drawings also show the catenary lighting, which is something that we had discussed in the early stages of the project, but we haven't included at this stage, mostly because the budget doesn't allow, and also there were some unintended consequences of having the lighting in place. So it was something that we agreed with the stakeholders wasn't necessary as part of the design, so it hasn't been included. And then finally, Appendix 1, which is a list of the issues and concerns that were raised by the stakeholders. I just want to clarify that to me, this shows the complexity of the issue and I guess the good progress we've made to get to the stage. So all of these issues have been dealt with in one way or another, either by getting agreement from the stakeholders that they aren't a problem, or agreeing that we can incorporate them in the design. So the design as you see it, these have been allowed for. So yeah, just to explain that point. Otherwise, I take the report as read and invite any questions.
Fine. Questions? Councillor Delbert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The comment on the lighting being omitted because of the additional costs. You may not be aware that a couple of the people talking to us this morning, the feedback was if that's something like that happens, I would like to be considered, just to make sure the thing functions. And myself, I'm just kind of thinking of projects where we go back and add things later and never quite get there. And myself, for such a well thought out plan, it seems a shame to sort of not complete it for not that amount of money. Just for feedback.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Noonan?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm just on the first bit where it talks about corten steel planters. And I know you've asked us not to redesign, Mr. Chair, but I'm just wondering whether those are the same product as Alma Lane is being used. Is it the same product as the Alma Lane ones?
Through the chair, it's difficult to define what it will look like because we haven't got to that stage yet. But corten steel is a steel that rusts or gives a rust look, but it's controlled. It doesn't rub off on you when you walk past it. It's just it's a low maintenance way of dealing with something. And that was an idea that the original stakeholders had in terms of the sorts of planters that might be provided, but I don't think it necessarily guarantees that's what they'll come up with.
Thank you. If it's designed to rust, that's fine, but the ones in Alma Lane are rusting. So I just wanted to make sure that the white ones in Alma Lane that are rusting don't look good. So I just didn't want to repeat an issue that we might already have. I have another question, if that's all right. We're talking about, on page 47, we've got the pedestrian vehicle and cycle counts done on the street, and I see there that it's a very well used street as far as pedestrian. I was quite surprised that the number is so high actually, and the plan is proposing a two-way cycle way, but there are no cycle counts on that data. And I feel a little uncomfortable when you're providing a two-way cycle count when you haven't got any cycles that have been counted. I've got no feeling for the number we're talking about.
Through the chair, the way that the streetscape has been designed, it can be used by cyclists. I think the point they're trying to make is that cyclists will use it the way they choose to. And regardless of how many use it, it won't be a problem for them to do so. They can either use it in the same direction as the flow of traffic or against. We expect that the traffic flow will be quite minimal, and that's why it's been designed to be less attractive to traffic driving through there unless they have a specific purpose. So that any conflict proposed with cyclists will be minimal, and I don't think that the numbers of cyclists would matter.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm very uncomfortable signing this out without any cycle count. I'm also very uncomfortable with the comment that cyclists will please themselves wherever they go, because I sort of see this as quite a pedestrianised area, and it's fine if cyclists want to go through there, but to provide a dual access for what is, I thought, were a highly pedestrianised, and given the numbers there and no sense of what the cycle numbers are, I'm raising a bit of a red flag on that one.
Through
That's
the
a
chair,
comment, really.
I don't know if I've described myself very well. Maybe if you took Alma Street or Alma Lane as an example, so cyclists travel through that both directions, and it doesn't pose a problem. So what we're doing is we're creating a streetscape that has a very controlled speed environment. So cyclists, their speed will also be controlled, and it's an inclusive environment so that cyclists and pedestrians and whoever else can use it. Vehicles obviously will be travelling in one direction only. I'm not sure if that helps.
No, I'm really uncomfortable with that. Without some numbers, I do have another question on the dollars, if that's all right.
Yep.
I see on page 22 that the contingency amount is 85,000, which seems like a high percentage, and I think that was there was a commentary about not knowing what might be in under the ground, but along with that, also on page 53. We had 75,000 for consultation, design and consents, and only 40,000 is spent. So we've got quite a bit of money floating around in here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, we haven't designed this in detail yet. This is just concept, and we wouldn't move to that stage without council approval. So the rest of the design money is to, or the fee money is to complete that. In 20%, it's about 20% the risk estimate, which is about right for a project at this phase in its lifetime.
Thank you. Councillor Laurie, then the Mayor.
Thank you. Picking up on a question through the chair that I asked Richard Adams from Hardy Street, who also owns property in Church Street. I spoke to a lot of local business owners who were really passionate about the idea of closing the street entirely to traffic, and they were adamant that they all felt the same way. And I think in the report it says one person had that view. Was any serious consideration given to closing it to traffic at this stage?
Through the chair, yes, it was considered as part of the design, and I don't think I could put the answer any better than Richard did. He covered it very well, and you are correct, there were a number that originally wanted the road closed. There were also a number that didn't, and they were the ones that wanted property or access to their properties and didn't have it from anywhere other than Church Street. So where we got to at the end of the discussions in our workshop with the stakeholders, there was only one that was uncertain about whether or not they still wanted a full closure, and we've since had feedback from them that they support this layout. And I think, as Richard said, in 10 years' time, if the design and the use of the space lends itself to being closed in the future, then they would like to come back to council and suggest that. So that was really
Sounds good. Also through the chair, what do we know about the future of the land that is sort of behind Cush? There's Hopgoods on one side, the back of Hopgoods there's Cush, and you've got the Nelson English Centre, I think it's called. There's a car park in there at the moment, but there's been a lot of discussion about a building going up there in time. Do we have any indication as to what might happen on that site?
Through the chair, no, I'm sorry, I don't, but I can investigate and get back to council if need be.
It'd be interesting to know, because it's a pretty big bit of land, and it'll have an influence on what happens in the street. I think
Mr. Thompson knows that.
I don't know if he does. I thought someone might have mentioned someone else earlier, but
Anyway.
it's worth finding out. Next question through the chair. In here, the concept plan's got 4 cycle racks. If we go down to Church Street now and we look outside Cush, East Street and Nicola's Canteen, there'll be bikes all over the show. In fact, East Street, who are very pro-cycling people, have had to put a little sign on the chain that says something like, please don't put your lovely bicycle here, because it's getting in the way. So I'm wondering whether 4 bike racks is going to be enough.
Through the chair, that was discussed as part of the stakeholder engagement, and it was agreed that if more were required, then it might be that some of the shop owners use that as part of their street furniture to put out cycle stands in front of their properties. But it's something that I think could evolve through time if more are required and more are needed.
Okay, but at the moment, I think 4 probably would be inadequate for the amount of bikes that are parked down there. Particularly when you consider the school. The school's started up and lots of people get there by bike. Through the chair.
And through the chair, I would suggest that the concept really is just a concept. And through the design process and further discussion with the stakeholders, if more are needed, then they'll be incorporated as part of the design.
Okay, and just my last thing is actually a comment, Mr. Chair, and then I'll wrap it up. I'm perfectly comfortable with what's being proposed in terms of cycling and motor vehicles and pedestrians, and I think we want to be doing everything we can to encourage people to get down there on foot, on a bicycle, on a mobility scooter, whatever it is. So I don't share Councillor Noon's concerns about that. I don't actually think we need to know cyclist numbers before moving ahead with this.
Thank you. Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to pick up on the catenary lighting that was addressed in the public forum, and I see in the report that it's not included here. I just wanted to check through you, Mr. Chair, was there one other item that Mr. Adams referred to? Was it lighting and another factor that wasn't in here? I'm afraid I didn't make clear enough notes. Or is it just lighting that's absent? Just lighting. So I'm just wondering, just so I'm clear on this, that the cost, your estimated cost of that is $50,000. So at this stage, what is the proposed alternative cost of lighting?
Through the chair, my understanding is that normal street lighting, well, I say normal street lighting, but traditional street lighting is proposed as part of the design. When we talked through all the things that that the stakeholders wanted to achieve and we prioritised them, the catenary lighting was the thing that fell out. So, and that was also to ensure we kept the project within budget. So that's how the separation came about for the catenary lighting. Also, at least one of the stakeholders was concerned about the ambient light that would be thrown above from the catenary lighting and might be an issue. So it was kind of it felt appropriate to leave it out at this stage in terms of the budget allowance, and to use traditional street lighting to make sure that the streetscape was
All right.
lit and safe.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm probably going to just let you know that I'm likely to want to move an amendment to the recommendation to pick up because I actually think lighting is critically important for cities, and I think taking that lighting out I hear the issue about light reflection up, but I just think that it should be further explored. And I just noted the comment from our property owners to say, we hear that it's not available in budget, please come back to talk to us to see what can be done. And I'd like a clause in here that's going to actually activate that discussion. So I'll just have a think about some wording and try and get something organised to see if the mood of the meeting is to support that as well. What I picked up from the public forum is that there may be a willingness to partner with us to see if we can achieve that objective.
Okay. Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm just thumbing through again and just checking on the concept design on page 39. Just picking up on the cycling and the pedestrian space, and I'm just wondering where the cycling is going to go, because you've got 2 pedestrian spaces only, which obviously is where people coming in and out of buildings. So where were you proposing to put a 2-way cycle? That might help me here.
To be clear, there aren't going to be cycle lanes or anything in the street. It's a shared zone, and the intention is that pedestrians, vehicles and cyclists can share the space. So it's not, there won't be a defined lane for cyclists or anything like that. The speed limit will be so slow that absolutely, and that's the point I was trying to make. And so I don't think the numbers will be a concern. The fact that they're interacting with each other will be a great benefit.
Yes, great education actually. Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just picking up on the comment from the Mayor about lighting. I seem to remember reading a draft bylaw recently which had some proposed rules in it about lighting. So I think that highlights perhaps the need for us to give lighting more consideration when it comes to Church Street. Don't you? Which bylaw? Haven't you been paying attention? Okay. So I mean, we are talking about a bylaw which has got rules in there about lighting.
About lighting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
you're saying
I think
really that
we might need to think ahead on this one.
Good call. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Officer Shane, you have got security cameras in mind, haven't you? You got that all planned?
The purpose of the design, and I think during the public forum Richard covered this, but the purpose of the design is to encourage activity in the street and reduce antisocial behaviour. Our preference is to try that in the first instance, and then turn to CCTV cameras. Our recommendation would be to turn to CCTV cameras as a last resort, because the city has a CCTV camera infrastructure already. We see it as beyond the scope of this project, because not only do you need to install cameras, you need to maintain them, you need to have someone at the other end actually monitoring them and doing something about the issues, or else they're ineffective. So I really
We're doing that, sorry to interrupt, we're doing that study now on CCTV. Mark Hollows is putting together what we've got in the way of cameras, where they are, and making recommendations via the police as to changes. And there is a camera down there. It's been there for a while.
Right.
So, Councillor Delberg.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I notice on page 50 we've got no underground utility upgrades are necessary within 10 years. Any key assumptions? And then yet we've sort of got the construction cost depreciated over 20 years. So I'm assuming we've got a 20-year of our use of our money to spend, but we're not too sure whether we may be ripping it up after 10. That's just my comment on that, please.
Through the Chair, my understanding is that our utilities, we're comfortable over 10 years, where we have to be careful as other utility users that can use road reserve. So that's power and communications that we don't have control over their program. But we've gone to them and we've asked them to ensure that there is no activity planned for 10 years. But we can't completely control them though.
Thank you. Councillor Ackland.
Through you, Mr Chair. Just picking up on the point about, because I think I can see the concern, and it's a concern we've rubbed up against in the past about this interaction between cyclists and pedestrians and all that. I mean, is there any feeling on this being a destination rather than a thoroughfare? Is that the kind of the point, isn't it? That this becomes, so if someone's going there, they're going to be riding their bike to stop there, rather than necessarily going there to bike through it and commute through it.
Through the Chair, that's correct.
Yeah.
And as it stands at the moment, it's not a comfortable place to drive through or bike through because of the uncertainty over the two-way portion and the single-lane portion. And the idea of the reduced speed environment, and I stress that point, reduced speed environment rather than speed limit. So the speed environment is the speed you can actually achieve through the area, and that's far more effective than changing the speed limit. So the reduced speed environment will make it, will discourage people from wanting to use it as a thoroughfare anyway, unless they make a mistake or they, yeah.
Okay, that's good. First of all, I have to say to you, Shane, that you obviously heard the compliments this morning from both those gentlemen about the cooperation and assistance and involvement that we had in this, and those need to be passed on, if you would. They're in the public forum, so well done, and I know it wasn't an easy exercise when you're dealing with a football team. We're just looking at the Mayor's amendment, which won't be far away, so we might just have to take a... Sorry, Councillor Walker?
Just regarding the Mayor's thoughts about the lighting, the choice of fittings, no doubt has been looked at, but someone raised the issue of reflected light up. That can be addressed with the choice of fittings anyway.
Okay. Oh, you got another one?
Thank you. Look, I was just thinking about the vehicle. If we're going to be, proposal is to go off Hardy Street, and I know that there are businesses at the moment that people are coming in from Selwyn Place to go to a business. So if we had have we talked to the transport management team about the impact on Hardy Street, because then people will need to come down into Hardy Street to get into the street to go to the businesses at the southern end. So has there been any discussions about the impact on the Hardy Street and the difference it might make? I mean, looking at the number of vehicles.
That has been discussed and it's considered negligible.
No other comments, questions? How far away are you? You're there. Right. First of all, while we're waiting for that to go up, would someone like to move that we receive the report, please? Thank you, Councillor Ackland, seconded by Councillor Laurie. All those in favour, please say aye. The ayes have it. And now, can you see that? Approves the concept design as detailed in attachment 2 of report R7018 for the improvement of Church Street that will allow detailed design and construction to proceed, and directs officers to engage in further discussion with businesses and property owners to establish if a financial contribution can be achieved to enable catenary lighting on Church Street, noting the budget limitation for lighting for this project. Now, can I ask if that amendment is acceptable to the mover and seconder? That's fine.
So, through the Chair, we've just received the report. We haven't got a mover and seconder for that.
No, I was hoping that they would. So it's been moved and seconded. No other questions and comments? Your Worship?
Very quickly with respect to that, as I said, I do think lighting is important in a city, and I would hope that as the officers work through the process that it may be that the business and property owners are prepared to make some financial contribution. There may be some adjustment to the budgets on other items that allow this to go through. I wouldn't like to think that we got to a point where there was a financial contribution offered and the lighting failed for lack of, a very narrow margin. So I'd expect that engagement to happen at the chair's level to make sure we get an outcome here.
Okay, thank you. Right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favour, please say aye. The ayes have it. Well done. Thank you for not redesigning it down to the colour of the chairs. I'd now like someone to move that we go into public excluded business. You're moving? Yes. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Laurie. All those in favour, please say aye. The ayes have it.